Before we get started, as always, I'd like to say thank you for clicking on this video. So let's go ahead and get started. In this video, we'll be taking a look at Nirvana's In Utero, the 20th Anniversary Super Deluxe Edition. I picked this up in a Japanese record store, sold as used, but it was still factory sealed. I can't even begin to tell you how excited I was to make this discovery. Now the price was still pretty high, which makes sense since it was still sealed. It was 15,000 yen, which comes out to about $100 US. Slightly below the original retail price, so I really can't complain. This is such a rare item to find today. So I was a little surprised here as I was opening up this package to discover that actually it had been shrink wrapped twice. That's because the Japanese distributors here put a Japanese insert on the back, and they just put it on top of the original shrink wrap package, and then they added their own shrink wrap, added the Japanese label there that you see in the front, and so here we are. We've taken a little bit of time to unwrap this original seal, and I still have more work to do. So this album is, of course, a fantastic album. I'm sure that if you've bothered to click on this link, you're familiar with Nirvana already. You're familiar with this album. You're likely curious about this special edition or this super deluxe edition. So we're going to go ahead and open it up, and we're going to take a look at all the contents. So this is the Japanese insert that I was talking to you about on the back here. It's got all of the contents translated into Japanese. Anyhow, let's go ahead and actually open the album itself so that we can dive right into the contents of this fantastic album. And now I've seen other copies from, that other people have of this, and I'm kind of familiar with what's inside already, so I'm really excited to actually see it for myself. And so here we go, the dramatic moment when we get to actually take out this album here. So I'm just going to go ahead and slide this out carefully, trying not to scratch it up or bang it too much. Excuse me here. I have one hand with my on the camera and one hand on the album. I need to get some kind of setup or some kind of stand so that I can make my filming a little bit easier. So bear with me here as I try to get this album out one-handed. And so this is it. We have Nirvana's In Utero, the 20th Anniversary Special Edition. And this is a great size. It just conveys that the aura of an old record. It's about that same size of a full-size record. It's perfect for a bookshelf. It's still pretty slim, but it's hefty enough to feel like a nice volume to look at. So just like the 20th Anniversary Super Deluxe of Nevermind, we have at the very beginning a poster, a 2x2 poster. So if we fold it out on the inside, we have an alternate artwork for In Utero. Let's go ahead and just open that up, and I'm going to try to do this. It's a little difficult with one hand here. I don't want to create any unnecessary or damaging creases to it, but there you go. So we have this alternate artwork here. It's interesting to say the least, of course. And here we have the iconic image of Nirvana. You've likely seen this in so many places. This is such an iconic photo, of course, of the band. And let's go ahead and turn to the album here. So what we've got is, right at the outset, we're going to find that same photo that I just talked about. That iconic photo is right there. And then, just like Nevermind, we've got some letters and some documentation from the production of In Utero. Some interesting stuff. Obviously, this is going to be a very short read for the entire album, but I think some of the photographs that are included are really quite spectacular. You see what an amazing setting for the production and recording of In Utero. You got some of the. This is exactly like Nevermind, the 20th anniversary. You've got some of the financial statements here. You've got photos of the recording area, and of course photos of the band during that stage of their production. Just very cool content. Very nice timepiece. This is the kind of thing that's very nice to have on the shelf with your music collection or with your book collection. It is, as I said, it's about the size of a standard record, so it does take a fairly big space on the shelf, particularly in terms of height. It's slim, but it is quite tall. Some great photographs that you see here are some of the artwork associated with the album. And of course, this is the heart-shaped box single cover, and as with all Nirvana singles, the artwork is always fantastic, and heart-shaped box was no different. It has a very kind of haunting imagery. Of course, that we know what happens shortly after the release of In Utero. That just adds that kind of haunting imagery that you naturally get from some of these album covers, particularly heart-shaped box, and of course coming up, All Apologies. So some scenes here from the heart-shaped box video, some more photographs, some personal written comments by Kurt Cobain, and there's some commentary or some kind of writing and relating to each song, some of the lyrics or some of the handwritten lyrics for each of the songs from In Utero, and that's pretty cool. That's a very nice collectible aspect to have in this collection here, the All Apologies single cover. Some very familiar artwork that you've seen in the original booklet for In Utero, and then supplemented with some additional content here. Now this Penny Royalty single cover, of course, if you're familiar with Nirvana, you'll know that that is just the kind of holy grail of Nirvana collectibles. It was released right after, or maybe right before, Kurt Cobain's death, and of course it was recalled immediately, and most of them were destroyed, but a few did survive. So there were technically 3 singles released from In Utero, and that one, Penny Royalty single, if you can find it, from what I've seen, it seems to be at minimum hundreds, if not thousands of dollars on sites like eBay. So certainly I would love to get my hands on that, but I'm not willing to pay that price, especially now that all of the tracks, including the Scott Litt version of Penny Royalty, is available on this album. So that part is very cool. So more of these handwritten lyrics and some photographs from the production, from the performances on stage. Very cool stuff. Very, very cool archival material. If you're a big Nirvana fan, this is definitely a must-have. If you're just a music connoisseur, or you just appreciate great music from this time period, I'd say this is also a pretty cool thing to have on your shelf. Some cool photos. Some of these are very familiar. You've likely seen them elsewhere. Again, some more documents relating to the production and some of the performances associated with the release of In Utero. Very cool photo here. You'll remember this from the original artwork from the In Utero CD. It looks really cool when it's blown up this large. So we've got, again, some more content here. And I do like these handwritten notes. I mean, this is not the only place you can find it, of course. You can get this, on the internet now, of course. You can get screenshots all over, and but it's nice to have in this book format. The presentation is just amazing. I must say, the 20th anniversary Nevermind and the 20th anniversary In Utero, they just did a phenomenal job with these. The presentation was excellent. The contents are even better as we turn to the CDs now. This was an excellent release. I'm thrilled that they put some of the music that they did in terms of the additions to this album. Most of it you could get elsewhere already. Songs like Sappy were already available elsewhere. The track that you find on the Beavis and Butthead Experience with the disturbing title that was actually also put on that Penny Royalty single, which may have contributed to them immediately pulling that album. I'm not sure how censored YouTube will be, so if you're curious, look up the first track on the Beavis and Butthead Experience, or the second track on the Penny Royalty single. So there's some excellent additions there. I'm thrilled with the outtakes and the additional versions that they recorded. And the CDs, one thing that I don't like about these releases, and it probably doesn't show here, is that they tend to be a little bit scuffed or a little bit oily from these plastic bags they put it in. But anyways, These discs are great. You've got the Live and Loud DVD concert. You've got the Live and Loud audio version of that, and that is just excellent. So that's great content that's included in this. It's just a fantastic set. The presentation is amazing. The artwork is amazing, and the music that they've included is amazing. In terms of the comparison with the Nevermind album, I'd say, as I said, in terms of presentation and content, I think they're both equally good for the 20th Anniversary Edition. As far as the albums themselves, you really see that progression in sound. As Kurt Cobain was obviously a very young man when he produced both of these albums, or when he wrote both these albums, and you see that from Nevermind to In Utero, it's a real progression in maturity. The sound is more mature. And that's the way that I feel about these albums for myself as well, because they were both released when I was very young in life. I was 10 or 11 when Nevermind came out, then 12 or 13 when In Utero came out. And so I can never choose, which of these two albums I prefer or which is my favorite. And, frankly, Bleach is one that I would include in the mix. I'm not even sure that I'd say it's really only between these two albums. But as far as these two blockbuster albums, it's difficult to say. I think for me, In Utero was special because I was starting to mature as well, hitting 12 or 13. Although that's a very disturbing comment to say that I was maturing at 12 or 13. That's just kind of an absurd thing to say, I suppose. There's no such thing as maturity at that age. But I think it's more like I was, getting out of childhood, if you know what I mean, at that point, and becoming more a teenager. I don't know if that makes sense. I don't know. Oh well, whatever. Never mind. And with that pun, I think it's a good time to wrap up this video. So let me just conclude by saying thank you very much for watching.